Welcome to the Reinventing You podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Sulli. The Reinventing You podcast is the place to come for those looking to reinvent their lives. When you feel stuck, lost, alone, unfulfilled in life, and you're looking for support, perspective, ideas, tools, and strategies to make the changes that you want in your life, this is the place to come. We share stories from mentors, teachers, and leaders who have overcome the odds in their life, who have reinvented themselves, and they come here to not only share their stories, but tools and strategies that you can use to create the changes that you want in your life. I am so excited for our guest today. Her name is Ria Mestiza. She is a mind, body, and performance coach, transforming the lives of her clients by helping them understand their bodies and why and how they can optimize their wellness and performance without the one-size-fits-all approach. Now in her 10 years of coaching and leadership in all things health and wellness, she is a force to be reckoned with. Ria has over 17 years experience as a trainer and competitive athlete in bodybuilding, fitness modeling, strong women competitions, and so much more. She is a speaker, businesswoman, adventure-seeking optimist, and underestimated strong human who is relentless in her desire to impact the lives of others. Ria is also the host of Summon Your Superhuman podcast, launching this February. Ria, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to dive in and hear all about you and your stories and your strategies and techniques that you teach to empower people in transforming their minds and bodies.
Thanks, Alyssa. Wow, that was a beautiful introduction.
Oh, well, hey, I'm just speaking to you and all the great information and knowledge and resources and experience that you have. You bring a lot to the table, and I want to make sure that that's been made really clear. You have a lot of personal experience. You've transformed many, many people's lives, and I can't wait for you to dive in and kind of just begin sharing what even got you in this field. What were the challenges that you've overcome and how you got to the other side?
Right. Well, what specifically got me into the health and wellness field?
Yeah.
Well, that was a point in my life where I kind of visualize a pinball machine when I sort of think back now, because it was like my dad had a heart attack and I was living in another state at the time, following a completely different career. And it made me reevaluate. And so from there, it kind of made me think, well, if anything ever happened to my father, I really feel like I would never forgive myself. So I thought, I'm going to move back home and take it from there. And so I literally just moved back home to my home state. And it was just like, I kept making excuses about why that job wasn't good enough and why that was too far and all these sorts of things. So it made me again. So then like the next ping pong, ball or pinball ball moved, and I was like, well, what do I like to do? And so I was like, well, I like the gym. I really liked this class called Body Combat, which was sort of like a martial arts fitness, class. Well, what does it take to be a body combat instructor? And I Googled it. And I was like, oh, you need a Cert 3 in fitness. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so that just led me down, I went down to the school, and then I ended up signing up for a Cert 3 and 4, did my certifications, and fell in love with personal training. And I never ended up actually teaching this class. But obviously that was my guide to go do that, because I was just like stuck. I was on the fence, like, all right, I'm back home now. I don't want to do what I was doing in Melbourne anymore. What is it that I could do? And so I just dove in 100% into the health and fitness, and I embodied it 100%. I started training. I started like intensely like putting into practice everything that I was learning, nutrition and fitness, because it's one thing to learn it, but you have to actually action upon it. So I was really living and breathing everything that I was doing in my daily life. And then I became a businesswoman for myself. I worked in the corporate field before, so working for someone, totally different.
Right.
When you start working for yourself. And so I became a businesswoman, because then I was like, then I have to worry about all these other things, and you wear all the hats.
Right.
So yeah, it's really been a life-changing experience, to say the least, because I didn't really know what I was getting myself in for. Like it was just taking it step by step and just going with the flow. And then for every season, as we should call it, it's like something happens and then it directs you again back that way. And then you go that way and you're like, oh, what's over here? And then you pick up a new skill, or you pick up a new necessity to learn new skills. That's really what's happened for me, like even in that first year. So it's like, okay, first year I've dived in. I'm now in the health and fitness, I'm a health and fitness coach. And even after my first exam, I collapsed to the ground with excruciating pain and didn't know what was going on. So I finished my exam because, I'm stubborn like that. and so then I went straight to the emergency, and then it started this whole spiraling process of what's wrong with me, because they couldn't find anything wrong with me when I got to the hospital. They were like, I'm in pain. And they're like, we can't find anything wrong with you. Perhaps because you're a fit person, it's a hernia, because it was in the groin region, it was in inguinal pain. And they were just like, it's probably a hernia, even though they couldn't locate it. So I was like, okay, that doesn't sit right with me. So, then it was like, perhaps it's ovarian cyst, or PCOS, it must be PCOS. And so polycystic ovaries syndrome.
Okay, gotcha.
And so then I had scans, and so that did prove to be an issue at that time. So I was like, okay, so that might be it. But then I had another specialist appointment who had directed me to, he's like, oh, you have a tear in your hip. You'll need surgery. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, why is everyone telling me different things? Like, I don't really know what to focus on. It's a bit confusing.
Right.
So fortunately for me, again, the ball leading me to another direction was with, thankfully, my client's husband, who was a retired remedial therapist, said, that's nonsense. She doesn't need surgery. I can fix her. Because I was limping at the time. So it's one thing to have ovarian cyst burst, because it's excruciating actually to go through that. But another thing to feel like I couldn't walk straight, like properly, and was in pain. So fortunately he was able to fix me. I'm always going to be forever thankful to him because he's disappeared off the face of the planet now. And he got me walking, and it made me think to myself, well, this remedial therapist was able to heal me, and I really believe this is something that I now need to learn and return this to the universe, because I went through all of these sorts of things and no one was able to fix me. And then this guy comes up and he's like, I'm going to fix you. And I was like, awesome. So straight away I enrolled myself in my diploma, and I started learning that, and since then I can say that I've been able to return the favor 1,000 times over now in the last 10 years, to help all of these other people who've been on a similar journey, that have just said, I've been to everyone, no one can help me, or they say they can help me, but they haven't. And, and they walk into my clinic and I'm able to heal them, or help them feel so much better, even just after one treatment. So
what is remedial therapy?
So it's it's massage. It's a form of massage. But I guess because when you say remedial, it's it's fixing, it's structurally remedying the imbalances, getting into the root cause. So it's if someone could present with, I have this sore shoulder, it really hurts. But then sometimes I might find myself working on their hip. And they're like, but this really hurts. And I was like, just bear with me. I feel like this is where I need to be. And I'm doing stuff. And then, they're like, the shoulder's better. Or, a woman will walk in with and she's, oh my God, lower back's killing me, which is very common as well nowadays. Haven't been able to really stand up and even wash dishes for 5 minutes without my back spasming. And I'm like, wow, okay. Work on her. Next minute, she's walking normally back to put her shoes and clothes back on. And it's like, do you realize you're actually walking just fine now? And she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. You know, and people with knee injuries, they've, you know, seen all these different people, and they're able to squat immediately. Like they get off the table, they start squatting, they're like, oh my God, I can squat without pain. And I'm like, brilliant. Like that just lights me up. Like yeah.
Wow. So, I want to just kind of overview your transformation and kind of even the trigger for it all. So your dad has this heart attack and he's in another state. You're in Australia, but you're in another location to where he is. And there's this part of you like that almost became like the trigger for you, the awareness of, okay, one, I need to be there for him, but two, like, am I going to be doing what I'm doing the rest of my life? Or do I have a bigger calling, a bigger yearning? And what is that? And what I love is that you began to explore and you stopped living by this excuse, as you mentioned, and you began to explore your interests, which is exactly what reinventing yourself is about. You've got to be identifying and experimenting, as you spoke to, about what do I like? Let me pursue this. You pursued this class and this training that you never actually implemented, but it took you on a path to an even greater part of what you love. And you spoke to this ebb and flow of the process of really becoming who you want to become and the evolution that you took. It wasn't like I just tried this thing, this is what it is, and wham bam, I'm there. Not only did you like try these courses but you began to compete and implement other things that through your physical ailments and these other parts of your life, your health and wellness were being affected. It took you on another path that allowed you to develop a skill that you can use in your performance coaching. And I just think it's amazing, the whole transformation of one trigger of life, it seems, around your dad became a catalyst for you really deciding to own who you want to be and go through the exploratory process of the transformation that you've made. And now you impact people's lives, not only like you're diving into their minds, you're diving into their bodies, you're diving into their perspective of things, but even on a deeper level. And I'm not sure, and you can speak to this, but to me, it sounds like a degree of energy and emotion. And you're working on a hip, even though you have shoulder pain. Well, that's to me an energy thing, an emotion thing, a chakra thing. Can you go into that type of healing and what's really going on with that remedial massage?
Well, that was sort of a revelation for me coming out of that whole experience as well. So that this period of time I'm talking about is literally within the span of 1 to 2 years.
Wow. Okay.
A really huge 1 to 2 years, and I haven't even thrown in a couple of other, massive things that happened around that time too, and I know you can relate to this, so I'll just drop it in there anyway. Is when I moved back so I was in a vulnerable place. So I find within myself personally, I can speak to this, and I know from a lot of my clients, the people that I work with, it has also come from that place. It comes from a vulnerable place. It comes from a place of I was scared and I was emotional about my father, being around. And so unfortunately, my partner at the time, he sort of played on that and was just like, well, we're in this relationship, where are we going from here? And I was like, well, I don't know, and I'm like, well, you're moving back now. Are we going to get married? And so on top of everything, he throws in the whole, don't you want your father to meet his grandchildren? Ouch. Talk about ouch, right?
Right.
So we got married. So I got married in this time too.
Wow.
moved back to my state. I literally got married within 3 to 6 months of being home. And so, because I wanted my father to walk me down the aisle, right?
Yeah.
That's real right there. And so, and he did. I had my mom and my dad walk me down the aisle, actually. So, yeah, so I got married. I'm not married anymore, just let you know, just throw that in there now. Yeah, so got married, changed careers, all in the span of 6 months.
Wow.
So, yeah. And fast forward now, I guess. So now I've told you about like my studies, and then now I've done my diploma in remedial therapy. And then it kind of launches me into spiritual awakening, so to speak. You know, I'm starting to like explore who I am and how I'm feeling, because, you know, I met this woman and she does everything. Like she's like does all sorts of like Reiki and like past life regression therapy and numerology, and she does all these amazing things. And I had an opportunity to sit down with her, and she said, Ria, I just really feel this strong, amazing presence with you. And I was like, me? I was like, okay, that's interesting. You know, I mean, I didn't really have that much self-esteem and confidence in myself.
Mm.
Even though I always presented as such, I really didn't. And she was telling me all these, you know, I feel this really strong energy with you. Like, wow, your hands, like you know, you've got this healing energy. Like, you know, do you know you're a healer? And I was like, oh, that will come in handy because I do remedial therapy. That's like, if I'm a healer, that's the right place, right? I use my hands to heal. And she's like, yeah, no, it just goes so much deeper than that. Like, and she, you know, took me, she just introduced me to other shades of myself that I'd never even thought of. And so I started a journey of learning and going deeper into my past, and, you know, and that journey and how those things have affected me and things, and dealing with that. You know, I went through a whole past life regression with her, which was just amazing. And yeah, I really started to believe and feel this energy within myself, which then led me to Reiki, which then led me to that ability. The first time I realized I had that ability was I was doing a remedial therapy session on a woman, and she just started crying out of nowhere. Like, I was working on this area, she started crying, and I was like, are you okay? Like, am I hurting you? And she's like, no. She goes, I don't even know why I'm crying. I was like, oh, do you want me to stop? And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, I think you're having an emotional release. Like, because I was working on an area that had been, you know, a site of pain for such a long time. And she's like, no, continue. Like, I feel like I need it. And I said, I feel like you need it too. Like, so I just kept working on the area. And then afterwards, she sat down in the chair in my office and she started crying again. And she's like, I realize why now. And then she, you know, and then she dived into like this whole story about her brother and all these sorts of stuff. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like that was able to come out of that, you know, that these things that we hold in our body. And this is what the lady had taught me too with myself, because I had this ache in my shoulder that I couldn't get rid of, you know. And I went to see my remedial therapist, and he's like, I'm doing everything I can't get it to release. But it was an emotional, like, you know, point for me, and which we pinpointed to what it was, released that, and then it was like, God, you know, happy. So yeah, so that was all in that span of the first few years, you know. So it was like
That's
learning.
amazing. And I do want to provide some clarity for anybody who's new to the energy and Reiki, as Ria is referring to, and things like that. So we have experiences in our lives that we manifest perceptions from and emotions from, right? So these perceptions can come from, our brains are really malleable from 0 to 25. And so these experiences, we then create emotions from, and those emotions continue to affect us as we are trying to create changes in our life, but at a deeper level. And it's scientifically proven, and in a more metaphysical, spiritual aspect, both sides communicate to it. But every emotion we experience, it carries an energy, a frequency, as you can measure it. In science, they can measure the wavelengths. And so when you have an emotion or an experience, if we don't express it, if we don't let it out. I was actually working with my daughter yesterday, who's experiencing severe anxiety and we ended up in the ER last week. She's having difficulty breathing. It's affecting her heart. And I'm teaching her, and she says, Mom, I feel blocked in my throat, which for my daughter, she's not a real verbal child. So for her to say, I'm trying to walk her through, like, where do you feel stuck? Where do you feel like you can't breathe? And she says, my throat, not my chest, but my throat. And she's horrible at communication. She just doesn't like to speak up. And I'm teaching her how, when you have a feeling, that it's important that you talk about it. And if your throat is blocking, that means that you need to talk about it or somehow get it out, whether that's through art or being creative and finding another way to express it. But when we don't, it stores in our body, as Ria's speaking to, and it can manifest into dis-ease, pain, different ailments that we then need to have someone like Ria support us in working through that energy, like through massage, remedial massage, or through energy work. And these modalities are very safe, and they're just another way for us to work through past experiences and emotions that we haven't dealt with. And in life, often as children, we're not taught to deal with our emotion. We're not taught to express, we're taught to suppress. And it's all becomes a contributing factor in some challenges that we can experience in our lives. And so Ria is speaking to the challenges she's faced, but also her clients and how she's guiding them through it. So thank you so much for giving us insight into that part of your journey of, it became so much more, you began to really identify a part of yourself that you weren't even aware of in this transformation. And what an amazing part of reinventing yourself from this corporate job, had a boyfriend, and then all of a sudden found yourself married, wanting to connect with your dad, but also on this transformational journey of self that is now become part of how you're able to serve and make such a powerful impact in people's lives. So can you tell me, as far as like your clients, so I come to you and I feel, I can see myself coming, to you. You work out of a gym type of facility, right? So like, maybe I want to lose weight, or I want to get extra fit. What is this process like when I come to Ria?
That is opening Pandora's box.
Okay, in a simple form, like very, very. So I'm like, Ria, I really want to get toned and compete.
I know what you're saying, Alyssa. I'm sorry. I know exactly what I was thinking.
Okay.
Where do we begin? So you walk into, my clinic is within a gym, because I do the training component of things as well, but then I also do a lot of the back end practitioner type things like remedial and kinesiology and everything else. So the testing components I use my office for. So if you came to me and you're like, okay, well, it depends what you said. I want to lose weight.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, why do you want to lose weight? And you'd be like, just put on a bit of weight through COVID, seems to be like common one they're hearing lately. Yeah. COVID weight. And I was like, guys, this is not really an excuse anymore, because especially where we are right now, we haven't really had lockdowns for like 6 months. So
okay.
It's almost like the women who've had babies like 3 years ago, and they're like, I just want to lose.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And I'm like, I hate to break it to you, but your kid's walking around now. It's like about to start preschool. But anyway, so the point is really just diving into the why. First, for you, what has triggered you to come see me? Because usually that's come from somewhere. We don't go to seek help unless something has triggered us to want to do something like that. And there's always a reason. There's always something, whether someone's gone to see a doctor and been told that they need to, or they've had a breakup, or something significant. Like I said, when I was speaking about that vulnerable place, that triggers you to make a change generally. So I would try to find out why you were really there, not just the superficial, I'm here to lose weight. Well, that's great, we can do that, but why are you here really? And then so obviously we'll dive into that, and then I'll figure out what testing and things we need to do. So there are a variety of testings that I need to do, so that I'm not guessing, like, oh, I heard this diet works really well, no, like, it's not like that. Where are you now? So I meet you where you're at, and then we build upon that. So, and the testings that I do help me determine the next steps, and also how much you're willing to change at that point, because I can go full ham on like, let's do all of these things. But if you need to take baby steps, which generally people do, like I'm there to work with people. I'm there to hold their hand and work with them where they're at and take them to where they need to go. So we go as slow or as fast as they need to go. If there's a serious health thing, then I like to accelerate things a little bit more, because I want to get them out of that danger state. If they're in a really unhealthy place, we need to get them out of that pretty quickly. But if it's more of a matter of emotional and physical improvements, we go slow. We go at their pace, basically. There's no right or wrong pace. I think it's just their pace is the right one, and determining what steps need to be taken. So when I do a type of testing that's like a hormone analysis, figuring out like why they're holding weight in certain areas and what hormones may be corresponding to that, which also tells me, their lean mass, body fat percentage, and things like that, which is interesting. But it's a tool that I use to sort of like check in with them every 2 to 4 weeks, measurement wise. And then on a energy level, that's when I do the kinesiology muscle testing type practice, where I can actually check in on the acupressure points and meridian points, and checking on how their organs are working. How's your thyroid? How's your gastrointestinal point, your immune system? What do we need to focus on to bring everything up to a higher level? So any nutrient deficiencies, and then that's how we figure it out. Because if someone's, say, experiencing leaky gut, well, then I'm not going to go, here's all these supplements, because usually that's the first thing people will say, what supplement should I take? And I'm like, well, if your gut is in distress at the moment, you're not going to absorb anything anyway. It's just going to be expensive urine, or it's just a waste. Let's focus on getting your nutrition right, so that you can get your gut working a lot better. Everything starts to process things better. Then we can add things in as necessary. Because at the end of the day, it's supplementary. That's what it is. It's not supposed to be your one size fits all thing. Like, let's just take these in little. So yeah, and so that's just the nutrition part of things. And then obviously I assess them on a physical level. So just making sure that what imbalances do they have? Do they have one shoulder raised, which is very common actually, because we're typing. So this is happening, or like a forward.
Oh, nervous. Oh, what do I have?
Yeah, so I have a look at them structurally. Which is the beauty of what I do as a remedial therapist, is because like I just see structure like you wouldn't believe. It's crazy. But so I look at everything, where they're at and where I need to improve upon, and then that helps me build their programming. So for the training, and then we start rolling out their training program and start training and fixing these imbalances and building up their foundation, so that they have a foundational strength. Structurally, they're starting to be more balanced. And then, as a result of the nutrition and training and better lifestyle habits with sleep and everything else, so I look at everything, they start to feel better on every level. And it's just this beautiful journey that we just unravel and unfold bit by bit, which is, I really love the journey. I always say
amazing. I love the one-on-one and how detailed you get, and that it's not, I don't go in and I'm like, you're like, okay, let's do this diet. You want to lose this weight. You really identify where I'm at. Why am I here? And how you can help me based on my hormone levels, and I know that like, everybody says you should eat fruits and vegetables. I know we've talked about this in the past, and like you should be, and you need all dairy fruits and vegetables, and you need your meats and stuff like that. And I told you that I'd taken a food allergy test or food intolerance test from a friend. And I've been eating this salad that like 5 components, which include cabbage and Brussels sprouts and like pumpkin seed. I'm not even supposed to consume because of the intolerances in my body, which is why I kept getting sick as I ate it. But I didn't know, because everybody says this is what you're supposed to eat. And so I could go to someone like you and you would help me from a nutritional standpoint of not just consuming, because it's a fruit and vegetable, and why are my hormone imbalances affecting these specific areas of my body? Like, I just love the detail and the in-depth part that you provide from a one-on-one stance. But I do want to ask, if I'm not able to meet with you right now, what are, maybe 1 or 2, 3 strategies that I could do in the place I'm at if I'm wanting to lose weight, or I'm just wanting to feel better in my body, or just getting more fit? What would you suggest as an independent person if I wasn't able to meet with you?
Well, I mean, in this day and age, there really is no reason why we can't meet with each other, because look at you and I.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, hashtag no excuses.
Right.
But in terms of the little changes that, that you can make immediately that will have an impact is as simplistic as it sounds. Sleep hygiene, which is it's so much more than just go to bed and go to sleep. It's that wind down process. It's the trying to have like a sleep schedule, so that it's consistent. Same thing goes for your eating. So there's been studies where they've measured 2 groups that all the only difference that they made was they ate at the same time every day. And that in itself made an improvement, because then we can dive in the whole circadian rhythm and circadian clock of the body and things. But like if we're just going simple tools you can do right away, it's literally trying to go to bed and wake up at the same time, and trying to eat at the same times can already make a significant improvement. And also drinking a lot more water. I find the biggest thing, most people don't drink enough water. And and then if they're drinking other things on top of that, well, then that's another story. But if they just focus on drinking enough, and a lot more than they actually think that they need to, of water, sleep better, and have more routine. And I think just that conscious, I'm going, it's my lunchtime, what will I eat at 12:30? And then maybe because they're subconsciously trying to make improvements already, they will make better choices in what they decide to eat at those said meals. They might even try to endeavor to try fasting. I think that if someone's coming from a place of inflammation or sickness or illness or of any sort, fasting is a great kickstart, because something as simplistic as a 12 to 14 hour fast you can do without even really thinking about it. It's just you go to sleep, that's already like 8 hours or something. Like you finished having your meal 2 hours before that, and then you don't eat for another 2 hours before you after you wake up. That's already like 12 to 14 hours done, and you haven't even had about it. So yeah, those are probably like the quickest, like not quickest, but like the most efficient, simplistic tools that people can implement right away, that will have a significant improvement.
Yeah. And you spoke a lot to just personal awareness and consciousness and being aware, even in consulting with you, is like, why are you even trying to do this? Like, even before you're diving to sleep in the water, and like, why? I just think that's such a powerful statement you made, because identifying where you're at and your why is really a contributing factor that's going to help propel you forward. Because if you don't even understand your why, and you think it's just because you gain that baby weight, or because of COVID weight, and really not understanding the underlying reason of why you have the behaviors you have, and things like that, which is why I think it's so valuable to go see you, because it's going to help you dive deeper, and you're going to provide the questions and tools and resources to really gain clarity about your why if you're not sure. But having a level of conscious awareness, it sounds like, is essential in any process of trying to make changes in your health and well-being. So thank you for that. That's amazing. Where can people find you and gain access to your resources, your knowledge, and working with you?
Pretty easy to find, because there's only one Ria Mestiza in the world. Yeah, you can just find I'm Coach Ria Mestiza on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. My business website is www.fitsique, so fitsique.com.au. So it's it stems from everyone's fit physique is unique,
Oh,
so
I love that.
yeah, that's where it came from. Everyone sort of asked, but because it's true. You know, some people walk in and they're like, Ria, I want to look like you. And I'm like, well, I thank you. I appreciate the compliment. But our structure is completely different. And so you've got these beautiful vivacious curves that we need to highlight, and that's going to be your physique. And we just build, it's just building everyone's individual physiques. So yeah, with the Summon Your Superhuman podcast that's launching on February 15th, which is Valentine's Day for you guys in the States. And yeah, so that's exciting. And I'm going to be hosting a challenge. So everyone's invited to come do that. And then that's how we'll you know, reconnect or connect and get to know each other a bit more on a deeper level. But yeah, obviously I do the deep one-on-ones, and I think I always will. I really enjoy that component, but coming as this year, I really am going to try to help as many more people as I can, and that's going to be coming through my masterminds, my workshops, you know, online group training, so we can just dive in deeper as a group and really feel like you've got that support from not just me, but from other people around you on a similar journey.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to provide all that information below, but I do want to ask one final question. So if you could just highlight the greatest lesson that you've learned in your Reinventing You journey, what would that lesson be?
Have faith, trust yourself, you know, that, and yeah, just diving within and really just allowing yourself to trust yourself, follow your instincts. Yeah, it's really been the biggest lesson for me is trusting myself and having faith that I'm on the right path, that I'm going in the right, I'm exactly where I need to be right now, and I'm going exactly where I need to be, and just have faith, go through the process. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. And you're a model of that, because you shared that with us today, that following your instincts and trusting yourself has led you to where you are today, making the impact. Thank you so much, Ria. I really appreciate you being here. I'm so excited for all that's to come for you and your upcoming podcast. I love to stay in touch, and have an amazing afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you too.